This is the Naxxramas boss, Thaddius. The video will depict the fight on normal mode, but since Thaddius and the two ads all use the same abilities on heroic as they do on normal mode, I'll just describe the 25-man fight, and you shouldn't notice a significant difference. Let's start with the two ads you have to take down before you can get to Thaddius, Fugan and Stalag. You should begin by splitting your group into two, so that each ad has at least one tank, at least one healer, and about half of your DPS. They should prepare to attack their assigned ads in unison, and should attempt to keep DPS at a steady, even pace throughout the pre-fight fight. Communication between the two groups is important, because Fugan and Stalag should always go down within 5 seconds of each other, or they'll resurrect with full health. It's also very important to tank both Fugan and Stalag close to the side of the platform that's closest to Thaddius, or the entire raid will be killed. Stalag and Fugan have one damaging spell each. Fugan uses Static Field, which does 3,500 damage every 3 seconds to everyone within about 60 yards. Stalag uses Surge, which increases his melee haste by 200% for 10 seconds. Every 30 seconds, Fugan will pull Stalag's tank over to his platform, and Stalag will do the same with Fugan's tank. Luckily, this does not reset aggro, so your DPS shouldn't be killed in the meantime. Once Fugan and Stalag are both down within 5 seconds of each other, the Tesla coils in the room will overload. You have exactly 15 seconds after Fugan and Stalag are down to get onto Thaddius' platform before Thaddius becomes active. This means you have to make a running jump off of the ad platforms onto Thaddius' platform. If you miss, you'll have to walk all the way around and try again. If that happens, you're going to need to receive a charge by standing on Thaddius' platform far away from everyone else. And then when he casts Polarity Shift, giving you a charge, you need to run to the appropriate side very quickly so that you don't kill everyone else in your way. Thaddius uses 3 spells. First, he'll use Chain Lightning. This will hit 5 random players for about 8k damage. He uses this around every 15 seconds. Secondly, he'll use Polarity Shift. This charges the entire raid either negatively or positively. Approximately half the raid will get a positive charge and half will get a negative charge. When stacked on top of others who have the same charge as you do, you'll gain a 10% damage buff per person. So if you have 10 people with the same charge all standing on top of each other, that's a 100% damage increase. If you stand next to someone with the opposite charge, however, you'll deal 3.5k damage every second to them, and they'll do the same to you. Keep in mind that Thaddius has over 30 million health on heroic mode, so the damage buff of stacking on others with a similar charge is absolutely necessary. Finally, if nobody is within melee range of Thaddius for whatever reason, he'll use Ball Lightning on his primary aggro target. This causes about 20,000 damage. Thaddius will enrage after 6 minutes of combat. That means you wipe. The way most groups handle the Polarity Shift is this. Assign one side of Thaddius to each polarity. We use the right side for positive and the left side for negative. Make sure that your entire group is 100% aware what side corresponds to what polarity and can point to it. In our case, right means right as you're facing Thaddius, not Thaddius' right. That's an important distinction to make. A short time after you engage Thaddius, he'll begin casting Polarity Shift. Some players will have their polarity shifted to positive, and some will have their polarity shifted to negative. Some will get no change in polarity at all. Since your polarity doesn't always shift, it's important for raid members to watch the polarity debuff that they get very closely when he casts Polarity Shift. If your polarity changes, you need to immediately run as fast as you can to Thaddius' other side. If you're not fast enough, you'll kill everyone around you. When your polarity shifts, you should run in a small circle around Thaddius, either clockwise or counterclockwise, depending on how your group wants to do it. But everyone should be going the same direction. This will ensure that people going from the positive side to the negative side don't run into those going from the negative side to the positive side, because they may kill each other. If the tank gets a polarity change, he should rotate around Thaddius to be closer to the group that has a similar charge. It's okay if Thaddius turns around. The sides for positive and negative are only important because those with similar charge need to stay together. He doesn't have an inherent positive or negative side. This is the entire fight, from start to finish. You just have to stay together with those who have the same charge and away from those who don't. It's important to note that if you don't have a charge for whatever reason, if you weren't close enough to get one or something, you'll be treated as though you are the opposite charge, and you will die if you get too close. Some important things to remember are that on heroic mode, you simply cannot beat Thaddius before his enrage timer without stacking similar charges. Make sure your group is aware of that imperative. Whenever you lose someone, you're not only losing their DPS or heals, you're losing their charge. They no longer have the ability to grant an additional 10% damage to those around them. You should also note that since priests can now use levitate on anyone, they can use that to help people who may have trouble with the jump from the ad platforms to the Thaddius' platform. Also, if you need to use a druid's battle res, it's very important that the person receiving the res does not accept until the moment Thaddius begins casting Polarity Shift. Then make sure they move to the appropriate group after they receive a charge. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Boozin Bullies wishes you the best luck and loot in your next boss encounter.